Uli.
Hey, congratulations to your anniversary. It's been a year.
It's been a year. Yeah, that's true. Thanks a lot. Yeah, it's been a kind of a short year, but I think in other respects, it also has been kind of a long year.
I will say the first time we met was in Helsinki I think it was June last year, and I saw you speaking on stage. I heard that you were writing an O'Reilly book on APIs, and I was impressed. I said, this guy's got to be a catalyst, and sure enough, a few months later, you're on the team.
The magic happened. Yeah, that's right. And I remember Helsinki. That was that was my first API Days Helsinki last year. I enjoyed it a lot. This year, like all other events, we didn't get to meet there, but at least I think for a few months in the Catalyst team, I was still able to travel. So I did meet a lot of new folks, and that was a lot of fun.
Good. Well, I did meant to ask, how did the year go for you? What were your highlights? What did you learn?
Yeah,
what was the fun part?
It's been a really interesting and also different experience from the things I've done before. So I've really enjoyed the journey, and it started out pretty similar to what I did before in my other roles that were pretty similar. And then with all the COVID stuff happening, I think we've now changed a fair bit how we operate, how we split up our time, how we try to still be impactful. So that alone, I think, has been a very interesting thing, just to see how the kind of job that we do, how it changes when we don't get to travel anymore, which used to be such an important part of the job, to really get in front of people, have long conversations, conduct workshops, like all these things where physical presence really makes a big difference.
Well, I do personally see, well, I'm based in Singapore. It's easier now suddenly to meet people, but of course it's much more difficult to spend an extended period of time having a workshop and these sorts of things. So it's a big change.
It's been strange in some regard, right? On the one hand, like you say, it's easier to meet people because everybody is used to Zooming all the time. But on the other hand, you get this feeling that everybody is just, okay, what's the next Zoom call coming up? It's like you don't, and most importantly, what I find fascinating is that we used to have these captive audiences, right? You have like 1, 2, 3 day workshops where you talk to a specific team of people and you can tell them whatever you think makes sense to spend that extended period of time, because there's this plan that, yes, we'll spend all this time together. And that you don't have anymore. And I think that actually changes things quite a bit, because now you have to think about, how can I still be effective without having this captive audience who are forced to listen to me for quite a period of time.
Well, I'll give you an example. Next week, we have a 2-day event in Singapore. It's called the Digital Banking Symposium. It's 2 days, right? I look at the speakers, I look at the panel, I look at the topics. Those are super interesting. Those are key speakers. It's not just some, there are some of these marketing events where, that's not worth your time. Great event, but 2 days. And do I see myself sitting in front of the YouTube station for the whole 2 days? That's just not the same. Even though the content may be the same, but I can't interact with the audience. I can't meet my ex-colleagues, my customers, my partners. So we also have to think about, how do we create events and workshops in a different way now that everybody's dialing in from home.
And it would be super interesting to look at some statistics of how people are attending these events. For example, when I look at API Days, it's still a great series of events, and I love participating and I love hanging out with the people virtually. But it used to be the case that everybody would be there, and then you really hung out for a day or two. And that was a very different experience. Nowadays, they still have good attendance numbers, but it really would be interesting to see how many of these people who are attending for how long. Because I would think that people become much more tactical in saying, yeah, I'll watch here, and then I do something else, and then I watch another talk, and then I go and do something else, because it's so much easier to do that.
Right. I think at the very least, if you can, if we have to eliminate all these personal contacts, all the happy hour drinks and, coffee breaks, it is about content. So the content speakers have to be awesome. And on that note, you have quite a fan base on your YouTube stream with the series that you run. Can you say a few things about that part?
Yeah, yeah, thanks. I'm trying. It's a really interesting experiment. I started, I think, in February actually. So I started before the whole COVID starts, or at least before the whole COVID things. I was aware of it, and I just thought, okay, I can actually. So the original plan was, I go to all these cool events and I meet all these cool people. Why don't I start making videos about the cool people that I meet at the events? This only worked, I think, for the first 2 or 3 videos, and then the events were over. So the original plan was really to do something else, but at least I had started already, and now I have mostly focused on just creating topical videos on things. And it's an interesting thing. It's interesting from the creative side of things. It's also interesting to see what kind of topics are maybe interesting for people. What are they looking for? You get all these statistics on YouTube telling you how did people find your video, which search terms they were using. So it's a different way of reaching out. It's something where you need to learn a couple new things, which also is, I always think, exciting and interesting. So that's definitely something I'm going to keep up for a while. I'm sure we all have to adjust to the new reality for quite a while longer. And that's just one of the ways of how I'm trying to do that.
Very good. Well, I'll keep watching. I think what I wanted to ask is, everyone on the Catalyst team, everybody is a strategist, everybody is a change agent, everybody is an evangelist. But even within the team, everybody has their own set of superpowers and areas. Which ones are yours?
I don't know about superpowers. I don't see myself as having any superpower. Maybe, okay, what's different about myself? I think I probably, of all the catalysts, I probably spend the most time kind of in the standards space, really trying to follow standards, contribute to standards, write standards, really looking at how can we bring the community forward on this level. So that's probably something that's special about me. Another thing may be that I just create a lot of content. So I write a lot. Now I produce videos on a regular basis. So I may spend a little bit more time than the average catalyst with this kind of outreach and visibility. That's maybe another difference.
Mm-hmm. What's the road ahead? What plans do you have for the second year, for the next couple of months, the next year?
That's a good question. It's been interesting, also in part because of the COVID stuff, but also because one of the things that is also different now in comparison to my previous roles is that I get to talk to customers more. So there's definitely a little bit more focus for the catalysts to directly impact customers, to speak with customers, to help customers, to get engaged with customers on their API journeys. And that is something that I find really interesting. That's something that I see myself spending a lot of time with, just better understanding what are the problems of organizations out in the field and how can we help them in the best possible way. And the other thing that I find very interesting is really, and I think that's something we're still kind of doing, to adjust to this new reality and figure out how can we still be impactful? How can we still be visible? How can we still make sure that people are aware of us, of maybe the consulting we can provide or the help we can provide? And we've transitioned a little bit from all these conference presentations to doing webinars. So as you know, right, the whole team, we did a whole bunch of webinars this year. And I think that's another thing that's interesting for all of us to think about. Okay, and what else could we be doing? Do we like the webinars? Maybe can we try a different format, or are there other types of events that we could do? So that's, I think, is something where I'm sure 1 year from now, things will be quite different from how they are today. And that alone, I think, is really interesting to think of how do we get there and what will it look like 1 year from now? And frankly, I don't know, but I think it's going to be interesting.
It's going to Interesting for sure. Well, I was just thinking, when you were talking about these things in 2020, it's almost not about what shoes you have or which flights you can take to some places. It's really just what you say into the camera and what you type into your keyboard. And apart from this, everybody is in the same position. But that's super interesting.
It
Where
definitely has been very. So let me. I also have one question for you. So
yeah
you've been on the team longer than I have been, clearly.
yeah yeah
So where are
it's
you?
2
Like
years
how many
soon.
years? Where are you now in your journey with the Catalysts?
Oh, I've joined the Catalysts just during the holidays, end of 2018, beginning of 2019. Right.
Okay.
And I've started more like as a developer advocate, so somebody who's still very technical, who's helping customers to get some really challenging technical roadblocks, engineering problems out of the way, do some hands-on innovation POCs, build some chatbots, that kind of stuff. Moving on to a lot of speaking at events, producing learning labs, but since distributed systems come with a lot of problems and challenges, I focus much more on how do we collaborate across departments, across organizations, right? So it's not just the technology, it's not just APIs, it's how do we build ecosystems? How do we, engage communities, and how do we build them out and keep nurturing them? And there is no shortcut. So we need to continuously invest in working with people, helping each other, and getting buy-in and input from various fronts. And that's quite often much more challenging than technology problems. And I enjoy this a lot.
So where do you think we will be 1 year from now? Just out of curiosity, do you have like a clear view, or is it also like I mostly think it's going to be different, but I really don't know how.
No,
What do you think?
To be honest, I don't have a clear idea what things will happen in the next few weeks and in the next few months. Overall, the problem that I saw is that we are also we all want to go back to something that we knew, and we are, even before this current situation, we were always, it's we have this thing in our head. It's always linear, more salary, a bigger bottom line, growth. It's only one direction, and we've already been telling people it's not always like this, right? There is waves, and we are, specifically as we speak about technology and distributed systems, we speak about DevOps, where we need to iterate, where we test things in production, and where we start projects where 50% of the requirements might just emerge as we start the project. That is still very difficult for people to accept. And now in the current situation, it's even much stronger that we need to acknowledge that we may not know what's coming next. So it's even more about staying agile in your head, staying agile with your processes, collaborating, using open standards, open everything, because we can't do it alone. And I think that's the big idea that I thought of.
And that also sounds to me as if you're kind of advocating that also, the catalysts should be Devopsing themselves. Just, be more like, try things out, see how they go, adjust while we're going. And I think, at least for myself, that's already something we've been doing a little bit, not always doing the same stuff, but putting out some feelers and seeing how it goes. And if it doesn't go well, you stop doing that. So, and I think that actually makes things much more interesting, at least to me.
It does, right? I mean, more than half a year ago, together with a group of friends over here, the group is called the Martians, right? When the pandemic started, we were doing online meetups. We were probably the first ones in Singapore to have proper digital meetups. That was the starting point, where at the beginning, everybody's just staring into a camera, and you don't have the typical meetups where you have the audience, you involve some friends. You're staring into a camera, you don't know who's watching, you don't know what they're thinking, you don't see the question marks in their faces. But if you do that a couple of times, you develop a digital sense. And after some time, we can use, trial and error, just like you said. We're not flying to the moon, nobody's dying if it goes wrong. But after some trial and errors, we can distill the expertise. We can use some of the lessons learned and use it for workshops with our clients or webinars with our partners. And or the partner summit that we ran in APAC a couple of even now it's a few months ago already, right? So yes, it's about trying things out, iterating, feedback loops, making things better, and ideally motivating and coaching other people to do the same what we can do, so we can be relevant at some point for a certain area and we move to the next hot topic, right?
That's actually, I think that's also for me kind of a good closing word. There's also that we as a Catalyst team, I think we have this privileged position within Axway also, that the stuff that we do, people look at it. So if we come up with some new ideas and hopefully some things that improve things, then people will actually take notice and start using it themselves. So I think that is also, that's a lot of motivation for me to think about if I can come up with something that is useful and works, other people can benefit from that. So I think that is also a nice thing that I like a lot.
We said it before, catalysts are change agents, right? Transformation happens everywhere. It happens for our customers, it happens for ourselves. If we are moving more and more from, well, license to subscription, on-premise to cloud, multi-product to platform, it's pretty obvious that the way we collaborate inside the company and the way teams produce and consume information, exchange messages with each other, or make decisions across departments has to change. And that's what the Catalysts help with as well. Yeah, that's really awesome. Where do we see you next? Do you have an upcoming event where you're talking?
Well, next I see myself in my office.
Okay.
Yeah, the next event where I'm talking is API Days Paris. I'm looking forward to that a lot. It always, I mean, it still is, but it used to be the biggest physical event of API Days. It still is the biggest event, but not physical for obvious reasons. But yeah, that's the next event where I think I'll be participating. That's a really good one because it's so big and you can get so much out of it. And I think now maybe even with the virtual format, it may be even better because it's easier to pick and choose. So I think that one is going to be pretty impactful. And I'm definitely looking forward to that event as the next one on my agenda.
I must say, I've recently presented at the API Days in Australia and Indonesia, and the combination of their platform Hopin together with the spatial chat, that's much better than some of the other events that I've seen digitally recently, because it's not the same thing as face-to-face, but you do have a chance to go to several stages, engage with new people, and even with a spatial chat where you have a video and voice chat, and you can basically almost physically walk around and join another conversation. That's pretty cool.
It's definitely a good platform. It's definitely one of the better ones out there. I think it's nice, and I've seen it on other popping up on other conferences as well. So it seems like the Hopin platform is gaining some traction, and yeah, I think there's a reason for that. It's really nice.
All right, keep catalyzing.
Yes, and thank you. I will.
Congrats again. It's great that we're colleagues.
Yes, definitely. And it's really great to be on the team. I'm looking forward to another year at least. And thanks for taking the time, and talk to you soon.
Cheers.